on the show. Mr. Mohan, appreciate you joining us here on CNBC TV 18. Well, it's a revival, sir, of the Prime Minister's Economic Advisory Council. After disbanding the Prime Minister's Economic Advisory Council idea and not taking that forward, Prime Minister Modi now decides to set one up, headed by Bibek Debroy, who will be the chairman. Other members are Ratin Roy, Surjit Bhalla, Ashima Goyal, and the former Finance Secretary Ratan Vattal, Expenditure Secretary Ratan Vattal. What do you make of this, and is this now an acknowledgement that there is cause for concern when it comes to the economy?
Well, I presume that since this has been established 3 years after the new government came in, that more priority would be given to economic issues.
Dr. Mohan, thank you for joining us, sir. But what role did the PMEAC perform previously, and is this a lacuna being felt by this government?
Well, the Economic Advisory Council has had many different ways of operating in different governments. But basically, it is exactly what the name says, it's the Economic Advisory Council, which was a sounding board for different ideas, sometimes for new ideas, sometimes for just assessing where the economy is currently. So that just depends on how the Prime Minister wants to use it.
Okay.
Because there have been many different ways that the Economic Advisory Council is operated.
Okay.
So we'll have to wait and see exactly how the Prime Minister wants to use this council.
Okay, but as you are telling Shireen that the fact that this council is has been appointed indicates that economic issues now take dominance that they always were. After all, this was sabke saath sabka vikas kind of.
I didn't say dominance. I said they will get, presumably, this is a signal they will get greater importance.
No, how do you read the signal of the appointment of this council?
No, that's what I just said, that the appointment of the council does seem to suggest that given the sort of chorus of voices in the last few weeks on the economic slowdown, also a lot of concern with jobs, that obviously that has had some impact since the finance minister had also been announcing the last week or so there will be certain announcements. But therefore, I do take it as a signal that greater importance will be given to economic issues because this kind of slowdown is indeed a serious issue.
Okay. Your comments on the constitution of the committee, the right members, you think?
Well, since they are all friends of mine, as you know, I never comment on personalities and such things. But they all say, obviously, all of them are well known.
Yes, they certainly are. But Dr. Mohan, if I may ask you, sir, because you said that matters of the economy need to be given importance now, and we're seeing this committee being set up in the context of the possibility of a stimulus package. The finance minister has said that something is being worked on and necessary measures will be taken once the Prime Minister gives his go-ahead. What do you think is the need of the hour today, Mr. Mohan?
Well, I think that there aren't any simple answers because what we have observed is there's been a slowdown in credit growth for quite some time. And of course, that is related very significantly to the NPA situation in the public sector banks. And therefore, even though there's very high level of liquidity with banks, you don't see high credit growth. And therefore, I would have thought that, of course, the government and the Reserve Bank have been given specific attention to this issue. But I do believe that we need to accelerate the solution to this bad loan problem. I have always advocated a bad bank, basically with the idea that you take out the bad loans from the public sector banks so that they can resume the normal activity. I don't want to go to the detail of how the bad bank would operate, but basically the very simple principle being that the priority is you want to get the economy moving.
Okay.
And therefore you need to get the bad loans out.
Dr. Mohan, sorry Sorry to interrupt you, sir. And while I think there is an acknowledgement within the government that they need to accelerate finding a solution to the NPA problem, the bad bank isn't on the table any longer. I mean, that was the idea that was put forward by the chief economic advisor, but it didn't really find currency within government. So what we are given to understand is that perhaps a higher degree of recapitalization is being considered. Whether that will take the form of recap bonds, we don't know, but it's an idea that's being mulled. Your thoughts on that, sir?
No, I realize that, but what I'm putting forward is that there could be reason to bring back that idea along with recapitalization of the banks, because once you take out bad loans, you have to recapitalize the banks in any case. But the simple point I'm making is that, to my mind, a very high priority is to get the banks operating so that credit growth can take place for real activity in the country. Second, something that is being talked about more and more is that the real exchange rate now is the Indian exchange heavily overvalued, something like 20%, according to the real exchange rate calculations. The fact is that the exchange rate has been roughly constant in nominal terms against the dollar for almost 3 years, despite the inflation differential between India and the rest of the world. And what this is doing, of course, is both increasing the demand for imports because they're cheaper, the exchange rate being highly overvalued, and slowing down exports. And you can see that in the data, the exports have indeed been slowing down, actually for almost 5 years. And now this is a very good time to think about this, because the whole global economy is now recovering. And therefore, we mustn't miss out on this turnaround that is taking place almost on a global basis. So to my mind, a very high priority is giving attention to the exchange rate, both for the point of view of domestic production and for exports. It's not just for exports.
Okay. Actually, Dr. Mohan, over the past 24 hours or 48 hours, the rupee has depreciated by about 1% over 2 days. So probably even in real terms, maybe it is not as overvalued as it was maybe when we last got...
1% out of 20% isn't very much, Shilata.
Okay.
The measurement suggests it's 20% overvalued. So 1% is not going to make any difference, and of course it goes up and down by that much in any case.
Okay.
So it's a very important issue. And there's a second point to that is that in about 9 years, in about 8 years, the increase to reserves has only been $100 billion. And now the level of the reserves is lower than the total debt of the country, that is private and public sector debt. And therefore, there's also good reason to do much more foreign exchange intervention. Which will add to the reserves, increase the financial stability of the country. It will mean, of course, means for sterilization, because there is high level of liquidity in any case.
All right.